साथ समस्त के बीच में जुगल धनी बैठाए, कही तुम साक्षात अक्षरातीत हो, हम चिन्हे तुम्हें बनाए। श्री ठाकुरानी जी साथ संगले पधारे मेरे घर, धनी बिना तुम्हें और देखे सो नहीं मिशल मातबर, धनी बिना तुम्हें और देखे सो नहीं मिशल मातबर। श्री ठाकुरानी जी संग साथ ले, श्री ठाकुरानी जी संग साथ ले। बोलिए श्री प्राणनाथ प्यारे की जय, सद्गुरु महाराज की जय। Dear Sundarsaji, thank you yet again for being with us. On yesterday's discourse, we talked about a divine meeting between two leading souls of Paramdham. The Sakundal Sakhi of Paramdham meeting with the Indravati Sakhi of Paramdham. It was a meeting between Lord Supreme and his consort, Lord Supreme in Prananath and the Sakundal Sakhi. The two leading souls that Satguru Maharaj reminded Prananath again and again to awaken, and Sakundal Sakhi being one, they finally meet in the year 1740 in the holy place of Panna. So on yesterday's discourse, we talked about the Arati, the divine darshana of Lord Supreme by Sakundal Sakhi, and what disposition he had when he did the Arati. Purana Brahma, Brahma Shenyare, Ananda, Khanda, Apare, Shivas, Nakadika, Adika, Inchita, Sesana, Paratapare. Such divine personality, the Lord Supreme, arrived in my place and blessed me. He came along with his consort. The whole world, the Vedas, the deities wanted to know him, but they could not. Such divine being, such divine personality, the Lord Supreme had come to my place, and I'm so blessed by it. So Chhatrasal Maharaj realizes that Prananath is indeed the Lord Supreme. Kahi tuma sakshat aksharatita ho, hum chinhe tumhe banaye. I've recognized you as the Lord Supreme. And he submits wholeheartedly to the lotus feet. Abato pachuna hamaru de chuke hum shees. I've submitted myself wholeheartedly to you. So from that moment on, Chhatrasal, the king Chhatrasal, became Chatta. So in Vedic culture, in the Indian culture, in the Eastern culture, when someone is dear to you, you give them a shorter version of their name. So Chhatrasal became Chatta, a dear one to Prananath. So Chhatrasal Maharaj welcomes Mahamati Prananath wholeheartedly as the Lord Supreme, as he was awaiting a spiritual master that was prophesied 12 years ago, that with his arrival in Chhatrasal's life, everything would change for good. So he feels blessed at the end that Prananath is there. Pahele data hama bhai, guru ko din ho shees. First I was the giver, that I was giving everything that I had. I was submitting to his lotus feet. And after that, Piche Data Guru Bhai, he became the giver. The master became the giver himself and blessed me with everything. Such was the feeling of Chhatrasal Maharaj towards Prananath. Bitega unatalisa, dagega chalisa, taba koi hoshi marada ka chela. So it was 1739 had passed, and the year 1740 came, and it was prophesied that someone manly would become a disciple of someone greater. So Mahamati Prananath became the master of Chhatrasal Maharaj. So Mahamati Prananaji finally convinces, as we talked about the feeling of Chhatrasal Maharaj, he was not willing to fight. He was not willing to lead his army. All he wanted to do was submit to the lotus feet of Prananaji and engage in devotional service of Sridaji Maharaj. But Mahamati Prananaji reminded him that he had a bigger mission. So Chhatrasal Maharaj was reminded and convinced to fight against the Mughals and liberate the Bundelkhand. And Chhatrasalji Maharaj was blessed. Chhatrasal Maharaj invited all the kings of Bundelkhand and asked them to fight alongside him against the Mughals. Because Mahamati Prananaji knew that Aurangzeb was too powerful to be beaten individually with a small number of armies, because Aurangzeb had a large empire. He had a lot of armies at his disposal. He had guns. He had a large number of horses and elephants to lead the fight. So Mahamati Prananaji invites, along with Chhatrasal Maharaj, the other rulers of the kingdoms of Bundelkhand. Raja ne malore rane rae tano dharma jatare koi daulo. Jago ne jodhare utha khade raho need nigodi re chodo. O the ruler of Bundelkhand, come together, unite, because the Mughals are attacking your very culture, very tradition, and your religion. If you Hindu kings do not unite and fight against each other, then the Mughals would always be overwhelming you and ruling you. Mahamati Prananaji invites, Mahamati Prananaji condemns, Mahamati Prananaji criticizes Hindu kings fighting against each other instead of fighting against the Mughals. And it was that time that Prananaji wholeheartedly accepted what Prananaji had to say. Bata sunire bundele Chhatrasala ne aage aaye khada le tarwar. He came forward with a sword in hand. They began to serve Prananaji and also started fighting against the Mughal armies. Mahamati Prananaji served as the Lord Supreme himself. And there are more than 5,000 Sundarsas that are served by Chhatrasal Maharaj in Mahamati Dham. He submits, he dedicates everything that he had to the lotus feet of Prananaji, because the Lord Supreme himself has come to awaken the soul of Sakundal Sakhi. Tanamana dhanase kiya sabanichhavara hatha joda thadi vai sifata vai sabahupara. So he submitted everything at the lotus feet of Prananaji. He is serving wholeheartedly without any expectation. It is a selfless service. More than 5,000 Sundarsaji are following the lead of Mahamati Prananaji in the holy place of Padmavati Dham. At that moment, at that time, as we all know, Aurangzeb, the Muslim emperor, had imposed a heavy taxation upon those who were not ready to convert to Islam. A lot of Hindu temples were demolished, and the Hindus were terrorized by the Emperor Aurangzeb. So Mahamati Prananaji wanted Aurangzeb to fight. He's inviting the Hindu kings to come together to fight against the Mughal, because if that were not done, then the preservation of Hindu culture and tradition would be at peril. It could not be done. So Mahamati Prananaji reminds Chhatrasal Maharaj and other kings of Bundelkhanda to come together and fight. There was a time that the religions of the world were fighting against each other. The Hindus fighting internally, Hindus fighting against Muslim, Muslim fighting against Hindus. Mahamati Prananaji is taking the lead of interfaith harmony, but his efforts were not bearing fruit. So he is using the force now. He wants to use the force to remind Aurangzeb that he was not on the right path. Chhatrasal Maharaj realizes the mission. He realizes what Prananaji Maharaj intends to do. He is so blessed to have the presence of Mahamati Prananaji at his palace. So what he says, that I submit wholeheartedly to you. Tana mana dhana arpane kiyo sab tumapi brajaraja mana bhave shoi karo hatha tumhare laaj. I submit wholeheartedly to you, O the Lord of Praja. Whatever you feel, whatever you will to do, please do so. And he reminds other Sundarsatsi, those who are willing to act in accordance with Prananaji, then he would submit to them as well. Shree Prananaji ke dina mein jo koi lyave iman chhatrasal dina upar tana mana dhana kurban. He is ready to sacrifice everything at the lotus feet of those Sundarsats who are ready to walk on the path that Mahamati Prananaji has led. So Mahamati Prananaji one day tells Chhatrasal Maharaj that I have traveled around India. I've traveled across many cities, many towns, many villages. I've traveled thousands of miles. But I did not feel the glory that I felt in the place of Panna. So I would want you to establish a beautiful temple in Panna, on top of Vindhyachal Parvat. Chhatrasal Maharaj took him to the place Mahamati Prananaji wanted to build a temple. And in that place, Mahamati Prananaji had already hoisted a flag. And the very next day, the temple was inaugurated. It was started to be built. And the temple was finished building in 6 months. That temple is called Bangalaji Mandir. Those who have been to Panna would know where Bangalaji Mandir is located. It is right next to Chopada Mandir. Gumarji Mandir. My apologies. So that is where Mahamati Prananaji resides, in Bangladesh. And when he is there, a lot of books were revealed to him. The book of Khulasa, Khilbat, Parikrama, Sagar, Singar, Sindhi, Marfat Sagar, among all the books. Among those books were revealed to Prananaji. Those came through Prananaji in the holy place of Panna. Padmavati Puri Dham, as you might know, is known as Mukti Peeth. Nautanpuri, Adyapeeth, Mahamangalpuri Dham is a Jagani Peeth, and Padmavati Puri Dham is the Mukti Peeth. As such, the Sundarsats never feel satisfied singing its glory. There are 5,000 Sundarsats with Prananaji, and Chhatrasal Maharaj has his palace in Mo, so he realizes that it is good to have his palace built close to Panna. And he builds a small palace there, which is known as Mahendra Bhavan today. So Chhatrasal Maharaj is fighting the Mughals, and Chhatrasal Maharaj in the meantime is also serving Prananath and Sundarsatji. So this is the state of Sundarsat in Panna. 5,000. Mahamati Prananath has a lot of revelations of the Supreme Abode of Paramdham coming through him. Sagar, Singar, Parikrama, all those books are revealed. One day, Mahamati Prananath realized that it's been 6 months that he has already been to Panna. And Mahamati Prananath wants to reach out to Aurangzeb yet again. He wants to awaken Aurangzeb, he wants to make that effort. But it's been 6 months. Such efforts have not been made. So one day, Prananath asked Lal Dasi to open the book of Quran and find something that could be used to awaken Aurangzeb. So he's opening Hussaini Tafsir and the Quran and trying and reciting the ayats of Quran. As Mahamati Prananath and Lal Dasi are doing that inside a room, Chhatrasal Maharaj passed by it, and he passes by the room. He hears Prananath and Lal Dasi discussing something. So Chhatrasal Maharaj doesn't want to disturb because it is not a good idea to peek and try to find out when two people are discussing something. So finally, he asked Lal Dasi what they were talking about and if he could be a part of that discussion. He asked Lal Dasi, what were you reciting? What were you reading? What were you discussing? Can you please let me know? So Lal Dasi finds himself in a difficult position because until then, they had not talked about Quran and the revelation of Quran that were identical to the revelations of the Vedic scriptures. So he asked Chhatrasal to wait until he receives the confirmation from Prananath if he could be a part of that discussion. जाए लाले पूछी हजूर में तब बुलाए हजूर महाराज कही ये जो बात कुरान की तुम सो छिपाई लो आज. So eventually Prananath gives consent that Chhatrasal Maharaj be brought forth, and Lal Dasi said, we were talking about Quran. We have kept it a secret from you. We didn't want to talk to you about Quran because you are a Hindu king. And we thought that you would not be able to accept the fact that Quran had some references to the arrival of Sundarsats, arrival of moments, and it had the reference of Paramdham. It had the references of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad. And you will find the reference of Paramdham as well. Lal Dasi and Mahamati Prananath tell him that Quran is a book through which Aurangzeb and other Muslims could be awakened. And he already knew that few of Mahamati Prananath's disciples were Muslims. He did not know how they could be initiated into Tartam or how they could embrace Tartam. So they were skeptical at the beginning, Lal Dasi and Prananath, that he would not be able to accept the fact that Quran had some revelations that were significant. As he hears that fact, ये बात सुन राजा की आप हुए खुशाल जाहिर किया दिन को बकसे किताब हाथ. So as soon as he heard that, Maharaj Satyasal was happy to find the fact that Quran had some revelations. He said, if that is the case, if Quran had such references, then we could unravel the teachings of Quran and try to awaken Aurangzeb. I would be happy to do that. Knowing that Chhatrasal Maharaj was happy, knowing that fact, Mahamati Prananath was truly blessed. So one of his final books, Bada Qayamatnama, he dedicates, Prananath dedicates that book to Chhatrasal Maharaj. So at the end of every chapter in that book, you would see the name of Chhatrasal. बिस्ता दोजख जाहिर भई नाफा किसी को न देवे कोयले हृदय हादि के पाए छत्रसाल यूं कहे बचाए. Thus the name of Chhatrasal we find in the book of Maharaj and Prananath and Bada Qayamatnama. So Mahamati Prananath is there in Panna. Chhatrasal Maharaj is ready to embrace Quran and its teachings. So what Chhatrasal Maharaj does next is organize the religious debates with both the Hindu scholars and the Muslim scholars. So he invites the Muslim scholars for debate. So the first, Chhatrasal Maharaj invites Abdul Rasul, one of the Muslim scholars. Aya Kazi Mohobe ka naam Abdul Rasul tina seti charcha bhai Quran ki makbul. He was erudite. He was a scholar. He was a scholar of Quran. He knew left and right everything from the Quran and from the Hadiths. So the religious debate was organized. So Mahamati Prananath asked Lal Dasi to take the lead of the debate from his side and Abdul Rasul from the side of Islam. So they have the debate. So Abdul Rasul felt that he knew everything from the Quran, so he was a little egoistic. Lal Dasi asked Abdul Rasul to answer him in two ways, yes or no. Just have a crystal clear vision of what he's talking about. He doesn't want him to roam around with his answers, not be definitive. So Lal Dasi asked the questions. How many types of creations are mentioned in the Quran? How many types of creations are there in the world? That was the question Lal Dasi asked Abdul Rasul. So Abdul Rasul stated that according to Quran, there are 5 types of creation. So the 5 types of creation, according to him, were 1 from the left hand of Allah, 1 from the right hand of Allah, 3rd one from Kunna, meaning when Allah said be it, then creation happened. 4th one from Khilkat, I would explain what that is. And the 5th one from Ibtadaya, from the historic time, from the very beginning. So he tells Lal Dasi, such 5 types of creations are mentioned in the Quran. As soon as he states that, Prananath and Lal Dasi know that right away, what these 5 types of creations are. Then Lal Dasi asked the question, so if there are 5 types of creations, tell us, which creation are you? Which creation do you belong? Do you belong to the creation that Allah did from his left hand or right hand, or from Kunna or Khilkat or Ibtadai? He could not say a word. He did not actually know which creation he was a part of. So Mahamati Prananaji and Lal Dasi knew it right away, and then Lal Dasi began explaining that thus 5 types of creation mentioned in the Quran are explained as such. So from the left hand, from one hand, Prophet Muhammad came. From the other hand came Isa, Ruha Allah, Satguru Shree Devchandraji, and Prananath. So Prophet Muhammad, Satguru, and Prananath. And Punna, when Allah said, be it, all the jivas, all the ordinary souls, or Jeev Srishti came into existence. Khilkat, meaning an eternal place from where the Ishwari Srishti came, and from Ibtadai, from the very beginning, from the Supreme Abode Paramdham, the consorts of the Lord Supreme came into being. So these were 5 types of creation. So as Lal Dasi and Prananath explained that fact mentioned in the Quran, then he realized that ये तेहकी का जमाने का खाविंदा जो करी थी सरत, सो सरत आए पहुंचे फरदा रोज क़यामत. Then Abdul Rasul, the Imam, stood up and prostrated and submitted to Prananath as the Imam Mahdi prophesied in the Quran. Because it was revealed, it was prophesied in the Quran that Imam Mahdi, the incarnation of Allah, Akhiri Zamane Ka Khawand, the Lord Supreme of the end of time, of the day of judgment, Qazi, have already come. So when Mahamati Prananath reveals the secret, he submits and realizes that he is indeed the Imam Mahdi. So Baldivan, the chief of Chhatrisal Maharaj's army, reminds that accept the fact that he is the Imam Mahdi. Mahamati Prananath explains these facts. All the Muslims are singing the glory of Prananath, and no other Muslim scholars dare to have a religious debate with Prananath because he is awakened with the awakened consciousness of Dharma. The Quran is revealed to him, the Vedas are revealed to him, all the secrets, all the symbolic teachings, all the deepest underlying message of both the Vedic and Abrahamic scriptures are known to Prananath, Lal Dasi, and his disciples. So Baldivan now starts looking for the Hindu scholars whom he could have a debate with. He could organize a debate with Prananath because he wants to know the glory of Tata himself. The Muslim scholars were beaten by Prananath handily, and he wants the same with the Hindu scholars. So he invites the 3 Pandits, Syam, Sundar, Ballabh, and Badri, the renowned scholars of Hinduism in Panna back then. So these were the scholars of Bhagavad Mahapuran, and they lived in Bundelkhand. So Baldivan invited them to the palace of Chhatrisal Maharaj for the religious debate. And Mahamati Prananath asked Chhatrisal Maharaj himself to take the lead of the religious debate. So as soon as these 3 scholars come, Chhatrasal Maharaj asked the questions about three distinct Leelas of Sri Krishna. Krishna's Tridha Leela. As the question is asked surrounding Krishna's Tridha Leela, then they fail to answer the question. There are three distinct Leelas. The integral part of Mahamati Prananaji's revelation is not understood by anybody other than those awakened by them. So, Chhatrasal Maharaj asked questions. He asked questions like, why did Sri Krishna leave Radha behind? When Radha, he was leaving Radhaji, he promised her that he would come back in 4 days, and he never come back. He never showed up. And why didn't Radha go meet Sri Krishna? Because she would go to Mathura before. She had gone to Mathura before. And it was only about a few miles away. If she wanted to, she could visit Sri Krishna anytime. Why didn't she do that? Why did Sri Krishna marry Rukmini instead? Maharaja Chhatrasal quotes from Srimad Bhagavad Mahapurana itself and asked these scholars that it is stated in Bhagavad that Sri Krishna had a special power until he was the age of 11. What power was that? Ekadasa samastatra gunarsi savalo vasha. As Chhatrasal Maharaj asked them to respond, they simply nodded. They simply looked down and they didn't have the answer to the questions. Chhatrasal Maharaj asked him the question. When Sri Krishna was revealing the secrets of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, after the war was over, Arjuna reminded Sri Krishna to reveal that understanding yet again, because he could not recall everything that he said, because he was fighting and it was all mess during the 18-day war of Mahabharata. When he asked Sri Krishna to do that, then Sri Krishna says, I won't be able to unravel what I told you earlier, because it was not me revealing the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. It was the Lord Supreme. Nacha sakya tanmaya bhuyak tatha vaktuma sheshata param hi brahma kathitam yoga yuktena chetasa. It was the Lord Supreme residing within me who unraveled the teachings of Bhagavad Gita to you. So who is that Sri Krishna? Isn't that the Sri Krishna that you guys talk about in Bhagavad Mahapurana? These questions are constantly thrown at these pandits, these Hindu scholars. Ye baat Sri Krishna ki hue na bina Bhagavan. And what their response was, only the God Supreme would be able to answer these questions. These are the matters of God's pastimes, God's leelas, and only God knows the answer. They say, we do not have an answer to these questions. Mahamati Prananaji unravels the answer to all of these questions. Krishna's Tridha Leela, the arrival, the advent of Lord Supreme Himself in this world, in Braja, in Ras. He unravels the Tridha Leela, the Vaikuntha, the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Golokya Sri Krishna, and the Lord Supreme Himself coming into this world. He unravels everything. So, after the debate was over, these guys went back to other Hindu priests and told them that Mahamati Prananaji was indeed an awakened soul. So as soon as the other Pandits hear that, they began to criticize these guys. You are stupid. You are defeated, but that does not mean that we are defeated as well. It is not a right thing for the Hindu priests and scholars that you accept the defeat. So they went back again, Badri, Sundar and Ballabh, next day, and they said that they wanted another round of religious debate. When Chhatrasal Maharaj found that out, he criticized them. On yesterday, you could not answer a single question that we threw at you, and today you feel like you need another chance? Sundara Ballabha Badri Bhale Mile Kali Mahi Chauda Vidya Nipuna Hai Par Eko Janata Nahi. They know everything about 14 lokas, but they do not know a thing about Lord Supreme Himself. That is why it is stated in a lot of scriptures that until you know the Lord Supreme, you do not know anything basically, because until you know Lord Supreme Sri Krishna, then you cannot find the path of salvation or moksha. Yet until you know Him, until you worship Him, all your prayers, all your devotion gets you basically nothing of great significance. So Chhatrasal Maharaj was critical of those religious scholars, and he issued a circular saying that none of the residents of Bundelkhand would be worshipping, would be paying their respect to these three scholars, Sundar, Ballabh and Badri, because they were defeated in the religious debate and they wanted another chance, which did not make sense. इनकी पट्टी सिर पर अब बांधो जिन कोई बुंदेलों की जात में इनको उठो न शोए. So do not pay any respect, do not pay them, do not invite them for any religious works. Chhatrasal Maharaj is engaged at two fronts. He is fighting the Mughals and he is listening to the discourse of Mahamati Prananath. One day he overhears someone talking about how Prananath is managing the expenses of more than 5,000 Sundarsats in Panna. Some say that he has some secret stone, pearl stone, and with that everything it touches, it turns it into gold. So with that, Parasmari is what it is called. Everyone believes that Prananath has it, and with that, he is getting his expenses covered. खर्च इत से पहुंचे नहीं ये उठता है कहाँ से, हे इनके पास रसायन ये सबों जानी मन में. Mahamati Prananath was asked, Chhatrasal Maharaj asked the question, I heard this today. While I was walking by, people believe that you have that precious metal. With that, everything it touches, it turns into gold. Do you really have it? How do you manage the expenses of these many Sundarsats? Because Chhatrasal Maharaj does not have much to offer to Prananath as yet. So he was concerned. He was so busy. It's almost been 3 years that Prananath is there in Panna. He came there in 1740. It's about 1743. And he finally asked Prananath how the expenses are covered. Prananath smiles and tells him that I do not have that Paras money, I do not have that Dhatu, I do not have that precious stone. The Sundarsats, the Rajaram Bhai and Jhanjan Bhai of Mirta bear the expenses of all the Sundarsats. Realizing that he was helpless, Prananath was in his land, Prananath was in his kingdom, yet Chhatrasal Maharaj was helpless. He could not do anything. He could not provide anything for his dear Sundar Sats. तब महाराजा मन में बहुत दिल गिर गए, हम ब्रह्म सृष्टि के साथ में अजू भय न सही. So he felt really sad. He felt disgusted that he could not help. He could not provide Prananath and other Sundar Sats. He became really sad and upset. He thought that he indeed had that Parasmani, that precious stone, which he did not. So Baldivan and other his queens, they remind him that the moment would come, so he did not have to be upset. He was doing everything in his power, serving Prananath and his disciples. So they tried to console him. As Prananath realized that Chhatrasal Maharaj was not as happy finding that he was served by other Sundar Sats. Mahamati Prananath called Chhatrasal Maharaj the next morning at the evening and asked him to go on a horse ride the next morning. Go on a horse ride and go as far as you can and return in the evening before sunset. So Chhatrasal Maharaj did not know what it was, but as Mahamati Prananath asked him, he agreed. So early in the morning, before sunrise, he went on a horse ride. He went as far as he could and arrived to Prananath before sunset. And Mahamati Prananath blessed him. He told him that as far as you went today, the whole land, you will find diamonds all around it. You would not have to be upset. Now, every place that you dig down, you will find diamond. So it is a pleasure, it's a pleasant surprise to know that Panna is one of the biggest contributor of diamond around the world. The land of Panna, even today, you'll find a lot of places where people dig into the land for diamond. So yes, Chhatrasal Maharaj began digging the places and finds diamond. He realizes that it was about time that he could now serve Sundar Satji and Prananath. So yes, the resources increase. For Chhatrasal Maharaj, he writes a letter to Rajaram Bhai and Janjan Bhai of Mirtha and asks him that now, from now on, he would be serving Prananath and those 5,000 Sundar Sats, so he did not have to send the groceries, he did not need to send the money or any other resource to provide for the Sundar Satji and Prananath. Rajaram Bhai got really upset and agitated that, who is this guy sending me a letter? I've been serving Prananath for so long without any expectations, and this guy is asking me to stop my service at the lotus feet of Sri Prananath. So he becomes upset. Prananath realizes that these two Sundar Sats, these consorts of Sri Raji Maharaj, are fighting against each other for service. While it is good in one side that they are both ready to sacrifice, they are both ready to give up, they are both ready to offer Prananath what they have, but the way they are fighting is not a right thing. So Prananath, when he looks, Prananath finds with his divine eyes, he finds that Chhatrasal Maharaj, Sakundal Sakhi and the consort of Rajaram Bhai are holding hands in Paramdham in Mulmila's meeting. So he writes a letter to Rajarambai to come to Panna. And Rajarambai comes to Panna and he has an intensive discussion with Rajarambai and Chhatrasal Maharaj. He tells them that it is not a right thing that you are fighting for service. And they agree not to fight with each other. So Chhatrasal Maharaj was told that he would only bear half of the expenses and Rajarambai would bear half of the expenses. So the matter was resolved. It's been 1743, 3 years have been passed. So in the year 1743, Baldivan, the chief of Chhatrasal Maharaj's army, asked the king, Chhatrasal, to take a lead now to fight, to liberate Bundelkhand. So Chhatrasal Maharaj was announced Maharaj, the king of kings, and a lot of kings around Bundelkhand were not happy. So now Chhatrasal Maharaj invites Prananath to take a lead. They arrange an elephant and numerous horses. Now he has all the resources. He has diamonds. He has every resources that he needs to fight off the dissenting Hindu kings who are not ready to fight alongside Chhatrasal Maharaj. He is fighting the Hindus in one front and fighting against the Mughal on the other front. On the day of Vijayadashami, the day that Hindus celebrate is the day that good won over the evil. God defeated the demon. Vijayadashami, on that day, Chhatrasal Maharaj was given a sword. It was named Jalpukar and blessed by Prananath. And he was told that every fight, every war that you will fight, from this day on, you will be successful, you will be victorious. Ita Jamuna uta Narvada, ita Chambal uta Tons, Chhatrasal su Laranapur Rahina Kamosh. Nobody could dare fight Chhatrasal Maharaj. And it is believed that nearly 280 wars were fought by Chhatrasal Maharaj against the Mughals, the army of Aurangzeb, and in each and every one of those wars, Chhatrasal Maharaj came victorious. He defeated the Mughals. After he got the sword from Prananath, he expanded his kingdom. He served Sundarsaji, and he went ahead with Prananath, awakening Sundarsaj as well as leading the war on the other front. So 1740 till 1743, that is the Beetak. On tomorrow's discourse, we'll talk about the Jagani Ras Leela, the Ras Leela in the world of awakening in Jagani's Brahmanda. We had the Ras in Ras Mandal, in Dwapara Yuga, in this Kali Yuga, Prananath organizes another Ras Leela. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the discussion with some other scholars of Vedic origin and the Muslim scholars. What happens to Aurangzeb at the end of his life is he regrets not accepting the Marfat and Hakikat that Prananath brought forth with him, the understanding of the transcendent Lord. What he says, Master had come to my house, but my darkened eyes could not recognize him. In the autobiography written by Yadunath Sarkar about Aurangzeb, It is stated that Aurangzeb finally at the end of his life regrets not listening to the message of Imam Mehdi Mahamati Prananath.